Hi kids. Back with another video. So a little while ago I replaced the clutch master cylinder that went out, and things worked really well for a week or so, and then it started getting spongy and not going into gear again. That's me trying to go into reverse. Ain't happening. No. So I'm starting to think that the slave cylinder on the clutch is going out, so we're going to replace that. Start by removing the battery. Check out my extreme high performance ricer hold down. Guaranteed to give you as much boost as a cold air intake, I promise. This is my Honda Odyssey battery box, which I put in there because I didn't want the metal tray vibrating through the bottom of my battery. It gives us a little room to get over there to that clutch slave cylinder. Alright, let's try and free this cable up a little bit so we can get it up out of the way as much as possible. What we're trying to do. Would probably be nice if I took the radiator hose off. But anyway, that right there is our slave cylinder, and that's what we're going to replace today. All right, that one's loose. A little bit. I got some cool new radiator hoses. This is their blue silicone. I got thinking about that after I replaced the radiator, because the radiator's so old it busted. And the hoses may not be far behind, and you know, why not replace the hoses? Where's my bucket? Damn it. There we go with that bucket. Can't believe I started a job without a bucket. That's just stupid. A little tricky to get to this one. It'd be better if I had a wobble socket. It'd also be better if I put the actual socket on there instead of the receiver for the 3/8. Yeah, I won. I won. I was a little nervous there. I thought that was going to break. Okay, yeah, I got that to the side. Pulled this plunger off, and look at that mess. That thing is full of hydraulic fluid, black hydraulic fluid. So hopefully that is our problem. Okay, yeah. See, now we got it up where we can kind of see some things. Get it up here, you can see. If you're careful, there's enough room to work that hard line up past the battery area. I kind of want to put one of those nice, cool ricer braided lines on here, and maybe a upgraded clutch cylinder system. I'm told that a Civic system will go on here, and it's actually not got the dampers on it that the Element has. Alright, we are going to do this by turning the flange. There we go. It's all broke loose. It's actually really loose. This thing spins. It's got those same pins in it that the master cylinder has. If you watch my master cylinder video. This is the other one. This is a cheese ball AutoZone unit. Pull that rubber stopper out of there and have it ready to go. Let's take a look at it and make sure it looks correct before we get any further along. It all looks right. I'm just surprised that I really hope this is it, guys. This is not having a clutch has been making driving this car rather miserable. I mean, it's fine on the highway. I can drive just fine with no clutch on the highway. The problem comes in when you end up in town and you gotta battle stoplights and whatnot. Trying to sit at stoplight after stoplight with no clutch is freaking tricky, guys. Right, there's that. Let's put the new one on quickly before we leak a bunch of fluid. Come on. Alright, here's that. And we can go back to using our wrenches to tighten it down for the last little bit. 17 millimeter. Whoops. Okay. All right, that ought to be good on that. So what I'm doing now is pushing this in, try to force any air I can back up through the system. It's not really doing much of anything, but so I'll have to open this bleeder. I bought these little tiny, teeny-weeny Duralast wrenches at AutoZone because, you know, working on this thing, you're in very tight quarters. We open the bleeder, and to get this thing to properly gravity feed, we have to get this cylinder lower than the master reservoir, which we are not at that point right now. So let's work it down in there a little bit. So let's pump it a little bit. Wish I could show you this trick. All right, so instead of continually opening and closing this thing, what I'm doing is I push this in. I've got the bleeder open and my fingers on it, basically acting as a check valve. Push that in. As I take my finger off of it, it'll suck fluid out of the reservoir. Let's push it in again. Then put my finger on it, let it draw it back out. See the plunger coming back out on this end? As it comes out, it's pulling fluid out of that system. I want to do as much of this in this position as I can because I can get both my hands on it right here. See how I'm doing that? And just let it come back out. Now once it's like this, I'll actually pump it a few times. See if I'm pushing any air out of the system. So I'm basically bleeding it from both ends, if that makes any sense. All right, take my finger off, push it back out. Do you see all that air? So get to 10 millimeter and close this. All right, refill our reservoir. I don't want to run out. It's down here. That is DOT 3.3 brake fluid that I use in this. That's what Honda recommends. They want you to use the Honda brand, but if you don't use the Honda brand, they say you have to use DOT.3. Work this mother back in there. And bolt. There. Alrighty. 2 bolts. Make sure your plunger rod is on the correct side of this fork. This is your actual throw-out fork. It moves your clutch in and out. Here's your throw-out bearing. That stuff all needs to be right, or if it's not, it'll be wrong. All right, now at this point, I'm going to test this and see how it does. And if it's still all stupid and sloppy, then we'll have to bleed this system again. It seems like it's working pretty well. For right now, I'm just going to toss the battery in without the tray and all in case I have to pull it back out and bleed all of this. And, you know, there's some likelihood of that. Cables. Let's put the negatory on the negatory and the pository on the suppository. Yay. Let's find out. Alright, that's not going to do it. So in order to bleed the system, we're going to need a 10mm wrench. Showed you that already. Some polyvinyl tubing, 3/16 is the size I've got, and that should work. This comes in 20-foot rolls. I bought this roll at Lowe's for like $6 for a 20-foot roll. I don't need 20 feet. I think I got about, I don't know, 4 or 5 feet, 4 feet. And the next thing we're gonna need is some DOT3, which I happen to have tons of it laying around. And we're gonna need some sort of clear bottle so that we can see our progress. So there's our collection system. By the way, if you don't carry a pocket knife, why don't you? What's wrong with you? Carry a pocket knife, always. Always carry a pocket knife. People today, I just don't understand you. I'm gonna start by putting a little bit of this DOT3 brake fluid. I've got like 10 gallons of it here, various flavors. Put that in this Gatorade jug. Now let's put our cap back on, just so we don't spill stuff. And put this piece of tubing in there. And look at that. And they'll charge you 20 bucks for that at the auto parts place. You want to make sure that that tube, piece of clear tubing, is submerged in fluid. In case you have a back draw, you're not drawing air into the system, you're drawing fluid into the system. And as we pump on this system, you're going to see air bubbles. I'm trying to get that hose onto that little tiny bleeder. Bleeder. So here's what we're doing with this. This is the one I took off, and all we're going to do is work this hose over that bleeder. And then we're going to open this with the wrench. It's going to shove fluid through here. That's easier to say than it is to do. All right, so I pumped the pedal up and I jammed it in place. Let's open that bleeder, and see if we get any air out of the system. Wow, yeah, lots. You get the idea, right? We just keep doing this until we stop seeing these air bubbles that are traveling up this hose. Don't want any of those, because if we get any of those, well, air can be compressed, fluid cannot. So if you've got air in your system, it can be compressed, and it's always going to have trouble finding the right spot for that clutch. So we're just going to keep doing this as long as it takes. I want to show you a trick though. So now I'm going to show you my trick for doing this by yourself. When you get done bleeding one cycle, your pedal's going to be stuck to the floor. Pull it back up, pump it up, pump it, pump it, pump it. I can already feel it getting stiffer. So I'm hoping that's a positive, because I really felt like when I put the master cylinder in, it felt like just spongy as hell. This is getting a lot stiffer. Now, I'm doing this by myself, so I don't have anybody to hold this to the floor while I go open the valve, right? Here's how I get around that. This is my battery cleaning brush. What I do is I push that pedal forward and I wedge this up inside this bracket, and it holds it right there. And when I go and open this, it'll fall out. Watch. 1, 2, 3, open. See, it's stuck to the floor again. Pull it back up, pump it up again. We just keep doing this until we stop seeing those little tiny air bubbles in the system. Pump it, pump it, pump it. Pump up the jam. Pump it up. One more time. Now that we've got the system bled, I believe, fairly well, And we've got a new master cylinder and a new slave cylinder. We're gonna have to do this adjustment all over again on where the pedal's actually supposed to be. I've taken the switch out, and the other switch has got to come out. Those have to come out for this thing to be adjusted properly. So the goal when you're adjusting this is to assume this is your clutch pedal, and this is the hole in your clutch pedal. These go together, and a clevis goes through this, and a pin goes on the other side. If you're having to push your pedal in or pull it out to get these holes to line up for that clevis to go in, then you're not adjusted correctly. You want this adjusted to where in a neutral position with your foot off the pedal, it's dead center. It's dead center, and your clevis pin will go straight through there with no effort at all. So you adjust this by backing off this jam nut and then turning this shaft, and that makes this throw either longer or shorter. If you're having to cram on this pedal to get that clevis pin in, you're not adjusted correctly. So I'm kind of in that, I think I'm in that neutral position right now. And one of the things they ask you to do is take out both of your switches as you adjust it, before you adjust this, so that they're not playing into this adjustment. So your switch isn't holding it off or anything like that. Now, let's see what that does. Reverse is still a little tricky, but I'm getting closer. That's definitely for sure. A little stiff, a little clunky, but I've almost got it. Let's keep going. All right, so now that I got the pedal dialed in where I want it, I reinstall and screw in these two switches. Let me explain to you what these two switches do, and that'll help you understand where you need to adjust them. This switch right here is a kill switch for your cruise control. So if you're cruising down the highway in your manual and you hit the clutch, that will drop out the cruise control. Now this one up here is kind of a safety switch so that you don't start the car while it's in gear with your foot off the clutch. This one here ensures that you've got the clutch pedal pushed down before you try and start the car. That's just a safety switch. And once you get your switches back in, well shoot, you should be ready to go. All right, keep having to test this. Let's check it one more time before we start putting everything back together. First, second, third, fourth, fifth. There's reverse. Reverse. Yeah, we got reverse. Now I can start putting all this back together, put my battery box back in, clean up, take it for a test drive. I think this was the problem. I don't know about you, but I don't believe that crap is supposed to be completely soaking wet with fluid. So I think it was leaking here, and every time I had tried to bleed and adjust the pedal, it'd be fine for a minute till it leaked some more air in there, and then it'd start screwing up again. So this is the entirety of the hydraulic system. All of this from AutoZone was right around $100. And if it craps out soon, I may go with something a little more beefy, maybe like a K-Tune system or something. I'm not really into all that kind of racy stuff, but I don't like messing with this clutch. And if putting a little bit more high performance part in there will make that an easier job, I may be up for it. All right, kids, let's try her one more time. Oh, first gear. Reverse. Reverse. Oh, I'm liking that.
Featuring performances by country music's biggest names.
Brakes.
Like these.
Shut up with the country music. Trying to kill me. Second gear. Third gear. Fourth gear. Get the mail. So that's it for this week, kids. If you think you have a clutch hydraulic system issue, I'm going to recommend you go ahead and replace the master cylinder and the slave cylinder at the same time. Bleed the system, adjust the pedal, and it may take you a minute to get everything right, but if you stick with it, you'll get it. You've got to bleed that system completely out, no air in the system, and then you've got to get that clutch pedal stroke length adjusted just exactly right. If you don't get those two things right, you're going to continue to believe that there's something else wrong with your system. And I'm here to tell you that that's probably just not the case. Keep at it. You can do it. I promise. See you next week.